Hey, how's it going? It's Nick. It's Tuesday, 9:48 p.m. It is November 6th. This update's going to be for yesterday and today. Uh, Great day, first of all. Yes, well, let's start with yesterday. Yesterday, the notable things were, just Chinese class and then Shanghai Metropolis class. So we actually went to the Jade Temple, and it was pretty cool. It was very different than what I was expecting. It was very commercialized. I think there were more foreigners than there were monks there, and there were a lot of ceremonies and rituals being performed at the Jade Temple. So, I kind of had mixed feelings, not really sure what to make of it, and it was funny because a lot of people in my class asked me what I thought about it, specifically just because of my experience at Sada. And I think I gave an answer that was very similar to Talasher's when I asked her tonight, and that was, you can't tell if people there are real Buddhists or fake Buddhists or not. The only way you can find out is if you look into their mind, and you can't do that as an outsider. Only you yourself can know if something's real or not. Regardless, it was pretty cool. I fed koi fish. I got to see the Jade Buddha. There were a lot of ceremonies and rituals and places where you can, say prayers and get blessings, which is the one reason why I felt something kind of off. But it was a good experience nonetheless. And after that, finished my came back to Fudan, finished my Google app, sent it to Tim, Chad, and Adam. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. And today is Tuesday, so no class except religion. I pretty much hung out in the morning, drank tea. I watched an hour video of meditation, which was a video of John Habit-Zinn, and this guy is a 41-year practiced meditator, and he gave a speech to Google and the Google employees. So I wanted to watch that, and it was very interesting because a lot of the stuff that he was talking about are things that I've learned in Talasher's class and through the book that we're using, Joy of Living. So it was nice to hear a Western twist, and it was nice. I went in without any expectations, trying to learn as much as I can, and the things that I did learn were pretty cool. I'm going to make a shirt when I go back to Santa Clara. I'm going to make a shirt, and it's going to say, "Meditation, it's not what you think," and it's really funny. I got that from the video. I also got that medicine and meditation sound similar, and because they have the same root meaning. Stanford University actually ranks meditation as the #1 practice and method for well-being. So for those of you who are still skeptical about meditation and how it's simply a religious thing, it's really beneficial for your health. They talked about neuroplasticity. They talked about falling awake, not falling asleep. And the quote that I took from it was, "It's not what I know. It's what I'm willing to know what I don't know." So in essence, it's about always being able to learn, always being willing to learn, and it's about exploring. It's about being creative, innovative, taking risks, and failing big, because that's how you learn. So after that, I had dinner with Ken and Ruth Wilcox, and we went to a restaurant called Mercado, and it was on the Bund at Zhongshan Lu, and it was on the 6th floor, and it was such a nice restaurant. It had the view of the Bund, so the whole Shanghai skyline was there. It was dark by then. We met at 5:30, and it was just a really nice place. It was a very nice ambiance. It was extremely classy, and I felt like I was in a movie in a scene where I was gonna, about to accept a life-changing offer. But it was a lot of fun. Ken and Ruth are definitely very nice individuals, and I'm very, very appreciative and grateful that I was able to get a chance to meet them, because tonight was a great experience. And I'll go over what we talked about and my impressions. So Ken is a very well-known person in the Silicon Valley, and he is the chairman of the Silicon Valley Bank. And if you don't know, that's a very prestigious position. He's very high up there. He has a very stern voice. He knows what he wants, and communicating with him was very interesting. He did this squinting thing where it was kind of a wink, but it was just like a, just like a dad kind of thing, like a that thing, but just like with the eyes like that. And he, every time I spoke, he seemed very engaged and very interested in what I had to say. And the reason why I say this, I'm not too sure. I like to think that it's both, but um, he has read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I am in the process of reading it. And we actually talked about that book. And so I'm not sure if he was actually engaged in what I was saying or if he was using the tactics from the book that I was aware of. But anyway, Ruth is a very sweet woman. She majored in journalism. She's from Massachusetts, and she actually writes articles in Shanghai for an American magazine. And they live in Xintiandi, which is the Shukumin area, and there's a lot of expats. And I told her that in my Shanghai Metropolis class, I actually wrote a paper on Xintiandi about my impressions, and she really wanted to read it. So she's a writer. She's part of the American Women's Club. So she kind of does a lot of traveling and writing and reflecting, and it was just right up my alley. I told her that my dream was to become a writer, and how I loved traveling and stuff like that. So we really connected. I feel like me and Ruth connected on a much more intimate level than me and Ken. Ken, the first impression, Ken had I think he had 2 iPhones, and he was, a very important man, obviously. And while dinner, while Ruth and I were talking, he would have to pick up the phone and make a call and conduct business and stuff like that. So I mean, it's all part of the job. He's a very important man. And it was just very interesting to see the dynamic. Ken works every day, going to conferences, meeting new people, and Ruth is kind of, just at home, being able to really experience the culture and stuff like that. So we talked about a lot in our conversation. We talked about how I met Jackie. We talked about MPI. We talked about how Ken first was introduced to Jackie because of Barry, Mr. Posner, when he was the dean at the Levy School of Business. We talked about Tibet because they're planning to go in August. We talked about North Korea. We talked about my Project Bridge. I told them that I went to the DMZ. They were very interested. They talked about Bhutan and their trip to Bhutan. They went there during the Golden Week, Huangjinzhou, in China, and Ruth went on about the cultural differences, which was very interesting. And a lot of the conversation we actually talked about things that I was really interested in, and it was just such a great conversation because I had so many opinions, and I had a more, you could tell that they seemed and they realized that I had a more sophisticated approach to things, and I felt it too. I didn't feel that there was such a huge age gap or age difference. I felt that I really brought value to the conversation because I told them things that they have never thought before, and stuff like that. So, he asked me why Santa Clara. I told him my West Point story, and he thought that was very interesting and intriguing, and Ruth did too. And we talked about Miss Park and how, Miss Park is my AP Lit teacher, and how she asked me, why do I wake up every day to go to school? And we kind of had a conversation about life and dreams, and it was a mashing conversation. We talked about education, and we talked about President Bush's No Child Left Behind policy, and how it was all going to be based on tests. And we talked about how the education system is different from Taiwan and China, in America. And at Fudan, so many students are stressed because they're, first of all, they're only childs because of the law in China. And the expectation to succeed is so hard that there's actually a lot of suicides. And same with Korea. And we talked about creativity. We talked about I gave the example that I learned from the online course, the Stanford online course that I'm taking. We live in a society where 2 + 2 = 4, and that's what we're taught, versus blank plus blank equals 4. And when you switch that mindset, same equation, right? They both equal 4. But when you give a blank plus blank, you're allowed to do 1 + 3, 2.5 plus 1.5. It just opens so many doors. And we talked about creativity, and we talked about the education system. We talked about different books. We bonded on How to Win Friends and Influence People. Ruth recommended 7 Years in Tibet, American Shaolin. These are very educated people. We talked about news, and we talked about politics, and we talked about how we can change the world. I told them about my Google interest and my dilemma between PwC in New York and Ernst & Young in San Jose. I told them a lot about meditation, and they were very interested in it. He was also interested in my last name, how I got Der, because Ken used to be a German teacher, and he said it actually sounded more Dutch. He also talked about how when he interviews people, he prefers not to have a resume or a GPA in front because it's a distraction. And Ken proposes and offers very unique leadership tactics and abilities in Silicon Valley Bank. So it was nice to see a change from your normal leadership. We talked about TED Talks. We talked about the most viewed TED Talk, which is about education and creativity. We talked about SATs and ACTs. We talked about their son, who's 25, who is going to study in Shanghai, Fudan. We talked about my potential book, Lash, Love, Awareness, Support, and Hope. We talked about Taiwan, and we talked a lot about traveling. And for dinner, real quick, we had red snapper fish, we had wine, I had a beet salad, and the pizza was really good. And overall, it was just such an educational conversation. I just felt like at that point I was present, and nothing else mattered. It was just me and them communicating and really sharing our opinions and learning from each other. And I think the best part of the meal was the very end. They were paying, and Ken sits back and he says, Nick, I think you're gonna have to repay us for this dinner. And in my mind I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's happening? And he said, I want you to meet my son. I want you to have dinner with my son. And I was really taken aback for him to suggest that I have dinner with his son. Means that I definitely made an impression on him, a positive one. So I'm going to meet with his son, who's 25, later on this month. And even more surprising, they invited me over to a Thanksgiving dinner at their place on Friday. So the Friday after Thanksgiving, they invited me, and I'm very appreciative, very humbled to have gotten to meet them. Jackie Posner, thank you so much for putting me in contact with them. I'm definitely going to reach out. I got their information. I'm going to send them my papers and pictures and stuff like that. And this is such a great connection. He meets with 100 of the top people that he needs to know in Shanghai. And when you're in that position, it's just, there's no way you can, it's just meeting people upon people upon people, and you're just building your network. So it was a great day. Got to meet two very interesting people. This video is coming up on 15 minutes, and I don't want it to cut, so I'm going to end it here. I'm going to change, get dinner, and go to bed, do some homework. See you guys.